The academy on Virelia floated like a jewel in the vast darkness of space. Its silver towers glimmered under the light of nearby stars, and enormous airships drifted past, carrying students from distant worlds. Virelia Academy was the place where the galaxy's best minds trained to protect, explore, and understand the universe. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked the halls. Some had skin that shimmered like liquid metal, others had wings, and some even had more than 2 eyes. Among them walked a human, Ethan, who by comparison looked plain. Ethan's brown hair fell into his eyes as he hurried through the academy's corridors. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He had spent his entire life on Earth, a planet few knew about, and now he was here, in a place where the galaxy's elite tested their skills every day. "Earth?" one of the students whispered when he passed. "A human? Really?" Ethan smiled faintly but ignored the comment. He had learned long ago that humans were underestimated. He knew what humans were capable of, even if the galaxy thought otherwise. At the main training hall, cadets gathered for orientation. Their instructors, tall and glowing with energy, explained the rigorous tests they would face. Simulations, combat exercises, problem-solving challenges, everything was designed to push the cadets to their limits. Ethan listened carefully, determined to prove himself. It was then that he saw Lyra. She floated effortlessly in the zero-gravity chamber, her translucent wings casting a soft glow. She laughed as she guided another cadet through a training exercise. Her laughter was melodic, but carried a sharp edge, as if mocking anyone who could not keep up. When her eyes landed on Ethan, her amusement grew. "A human?" she said, loud enough for nearby cadets to hear. "This is going to be fun." Ethan felt a chill, but he kept his gaze forward. He did not respond to her, knowing that words alone would not prove anything here. Actions mattered. The first exercise was simple. Navigate a floating obstacle course in zero gravity. Aliens darted effortlessly, using wings, suction pads, and psychic pulses to move. Ethan struggled. Every movement had to be precise, and he kept spinning out of control. He hit a wall softly and rolled back. Some cadets giggled. Others looked annoyed. Lyra's laughter echoed in his ears. "Slow, clumsy, and plain," she said under her breath, though it carried to those nearby. "Earthlings can't survive here." Ethan's fingers clenched. He wanted to prove her wrong, but he reminded himself. Patience, observation, strategy. Humans had survived for thousands of years on a small planet with unpredictable weather, wild animals, and constant challenges. Survival was in their nature. He studied the course, noting how the alien cadets moved. Most relied on bursts of speed or raw power, while some used their psychic energy to teleport small distances. Ethan realized there was a pattern. The course required precise timing and clever angles, something raw power alone could not solve. Ethan took a deep breath and launched himself forward. He used small pushes and spins, adjusting constantly. Slowly, he began moving with purpose. Cadets around him were surprised. He was not fast, but he was deliberate. He avoided the spinning blades and floating energy barriers. For the first time, Lyra's amusement faltered. By the end of the exercise, Ethan finished, last among the cadets, but with no collisions and no mistakes. He looked tired but satisfied. Lyra hovered nearby, her wings flickering. "Beginner's luck," she said, trying to hide the surprise in her voice. Ethan simply nodded and floated past. He knew this was only the beginning. The next challenge was teamwork. The cadets were divided into groups and sent to solve a simulated alien distress call. Each team had to decode signals, navigate complex terrain, and rescue stranded aliens. Ethan's team included a mix of species, a four-armed engineer named Crovan, a winged scout named Talia, and a small telepathic creature called Miri. At first, the team struggled. Croven wanted to lift obstacles with brute strength. Talia rushed ahead, flying recklessly, and Miri tried to control everyone's minds to direct them. Ethan watched carefully. Then, using his human intuition, he suggested a different approach. Instead of moving the heavy barriers, we can use the floating platforms here, Ethan said, pointing at a set of mechanical pads. We can create a bridge across the chasm. Talia can stabilize it, Croven can push the pads, and Miri can guide our balance. The team hesitated but followed his instructions. Step by step, they crossed the simulated chasm. The alien cadets were amazed. Ethan's method was unorthodox, yet it worked perfectly. Lyra watched from the side, her expression shifting from amusement to disbelief. She had laughed at him, but now she could not deny his skill. After the exercise, instructors praised the team. "Creative problem-solving is as valuable as power," one of them said. "Humans may be underestimated, but they bring qualities we cannot ignore." Ethan felt a small sense of satisfaction. He had survived the first day, not by being the strongest or fastest, but by thinking differently. That evening, Ethan wandered the academy grounds. He looked up at the stars, so many and so bright. Earth felt far away, yet he carried it with him. Humans were not the strongest in the galaxy, nor the most advanced, but they had something unique: adaptability, creativity, and courage. A soft voice startled him. "You do not belong here." Ethan turned to see Lyra floating beside him. She no longer looked mocking. Instead, she seemed curious. "I thought humans were weak," she said. "But you handle things differently." Ethan smiled faintly. "It is not about strength. It is about thinking, observing, and adapting." Lyra studied him for a moment. Then she laughed softly, but this time without malice. "We will see if your thinking survives the real challenges." Ethan knew she was right. The academy would push him to limits he could not yet imagine. But he also knew something else. Humans had survived challenges far greater than this. The next morning, a notice appeared across the academy's hollow boards. "Mission assignments. All cadets report to the central briefing hall." Ethan's heart raced. Real missions meant real stakes. Mistakes could be dangerous, even deadly. But this was his chance to prove humans could shine where others might fail. As he entered the hall, he saw cadets whispering, pointing at him. Some were curious. Others were doubtful. Lyra hovered nearby, arms crossed, watching him carefully. The chief instructor, a tall being with silver skin and glowing eyes, addressed the cadets. "A distress signal has been detected in a distant sector. Your mission: investigate, assess threats, and retrieve critical artifacts. Teams will be assigned randomly. Trust your skills, but remember, cooperation is key." Teams were called. Ethan found himself paired with Lyra, Croven, Talia, and Miri, the same team from yesterday. He felt a mix of tension and excitement. Lyra's eyes met his. There was no laughter this time, only a challenge. As the team prepared their starcraft for launch, Ethan focused. He would need to use everything he had learned, not just to survive, but to show the galaxy what humans were capable of. The engines ignited. The stars streaked past, and Ethan felt the thrill of adventure. This was only the beginning. Somewhere out there, danger waited, but also opportunity. And in that moment, for the first time in the academy, Ethan knew one thing clearly. Humans may seem ordinary, but they were anything but. The starcraft hummed with energy as it glided through the empty blackness of space. Ethan sat quietly in the co-pilot seat, observing the holographic maps and blinking lights. Around him, the other cadets prepared for the mission ahead. Lyra floated nearby, her translucent wings folding and unfolding, clearly restless. "Don't think you can keep up," Lyra whispered, more to herself than to Ethan. "A human is slower than any of us. You'll see." Ethan gave her a calm look and said nothing. Words would not prove anything, actions would. He had learned long ago that patience and observation were more powerful than arrogance. Their mission was simple in theory, but complex in execution. Investigate a remote sector where unusual energy readings had been detected. It was believed the area contained ancient alien artifacts, some highly unstable. Many cadets had failed simulations in similar scenarios. As the starcraft approached the sector, the cadets could see the swirling energy field from the viewport. The light shimmered in colors no eye had names for. The structure that emitted the energy rose like a jagged fortress, floating in the void, its walls carved with symbols that no cadet could read. Croven, the four-armed engineer, tapped his claws against the control panel impatiently. "We should charge through and take a closer scan," he said. "Why waste time on preparation?" Talia, the winged scout, flicked her wings irritably. "If we go in without caution, we could trigger traps or destroy the artifacts." Miri, the tiny telepathic cadet, hovered near the controls, her eyes glowing faintly. "We need a plan," she said. "I can sense anomalies in the energy fields, but we need precision. Brute force will fail." Ethan nodded silently. He leaned over the console and traced the paths of the energy currents. "There is a pattern," he said quietly. "The energy pulses at intervals. If we move when the pulse is low, we can pass safely, but we must combine our skills, strength, agility, and focus." The team exchanged glances. Lyra tilted her head, skeptical. "And you think a human mind can detect something the rest of us cannot?" Ethan met her gaze without fear. "It's not about being faster or stronger. It's about noticing what others ignore." The team followed his lead. Croven pushed the starcraft carefully, Talia stabilized their movement with precise wing adjustments, and Miri guided them with her telepathy. Ethan directed their timing, calling out when to move and when to wait. For several minutes, everything went smoothly. But then, a sudden energy spike flashed across the hull. The starcraft shuddered violently. Warning lights blinked. "Trap!" Lyra shouted, her confidence slipping. "It's a trap!" Ethan stayed calm. He quickly calculated the timing of the spikes. "Hold steady," he instructed. "When the next pulse comes all at once, we move to the left corridor. Trust me." There was no time for argument. The team followed Ethan's instructions. As predicted, the starcraft slipped through the corridor safely, avoiding the spike and entering a calm chamber. For a moment, silence filled the cabin. Then Lyra exhaled sharply. "That worked?" she said, her voice a mix of surprise and disbelief. Ethan gave a small smile. "It always works if you notice the pattern and trust the team." Croven's claws drummed on the console. "I'll admit it. That was clever. But one success doesn't mean—" "Don't underestimate humans," Ethan said quietly, interrupting him. "We survive by thinking, not by relying solely on strength or raw power." Lyra's eyes narrowed. She did not speak, but her wings twitched nervously. She had expected a human to fail, and yet here they were, moving forward while other cadets in simulation would have been trapped or worse. The next challenge awaited in the chamber. The walls were lined with ancient machinery, some still humming faintly with power. Symbols carved into the walls glowed intermittently, suggesting that any wrong move could activate defenses. "This looks like a puzzle," Miri said. "I can sense the flow of energy, but I cannot fully control it. It requires logic and creativity, something beyond my telepathy." Ethan studied the patterns. "The symbols are not just decoration. They are connected. Each light indicates a step. We need to activate them in the right sequence to pass safely." The team began to experiment. Lyra tried using her psychic energy to force the symbols, but each attempt triggered small traps. Croven tried brute force, pushing buttons at random, but the machines recoiled, blocking their path. Ethan observed quietly. Then, without touching any buttons himself, he suggested a sequence based on timing, spacing, and the angles of the symbols. "We activate the symbols in this order: Each step must follow the pulse of energy. Watch closely, then move together. Slowly, carefully, the team followed his plan. One by one, the symbols lit correctly. The chamber's defenses remained inactive. When the last symbol glowed, a doorway opened silently. The team stepped through, breathless. Lyra's expression had changed. The laughter she had aimed at Ethan yesterday was gone. In its place was astonishment, and perhaps a hint of respect. "You planned all that?" she asked, unable to hide her shock. "Yes," Ethan said simply. "It is about observing, understanding, and predicting. That is what humans excel at." They moved into the next area, deeper into the mysterious structure. Here, gravity shifted unpredictably, walls moved, and paths changed constantly. The alien cadets struggled, wings flapped uselessly, claws slipped, and psychic powers faltered against the shifting terrain. Ethan adjusted quickly. He used small bursts of thrusters, timed movements, and clever angles to traverse the hazards. Slowly, he led the team through, avoiding danger with precision. Lyra had to follow him closely. She moved faster than she ever had in a training simulation, but she still lagged slightly behind. She could not deny it. The human was proving superior in a situation designed for alien strengths. Finally, they reached the heart of the structure, a vast chamber filled with glowing energy artifacts floating above the floor. The energy pulsed in strange rhythms, illuminating the room in mesmerizing colors. Miri floated forward, hesitant. "These artifacts, they are ancient, dangerous. We must handle them carefully." Ethan studied the artifacts, noticing subtle vibrations that suggested connections between them. He pointed out a pattern that could be used to safely extract one artifact without triggering energy surges. The team followed his plan. Lyra remained silent, watching Ethan's methodical actions. She could not understand how a human could solve such complex problems so calmly, while others would panic. She had expected to lead, to shine, to prove her superiority, and yet, here was a human guiding them, succeeding where others might fail. When the artifact was secured, the team relaxed slightly. Ethan handed it carefully to Miri, ensuring it was stable. Then he turned to face Lyra. "You laughed at me yesterday," he said quietly. "But this is why humans survive. We adapt. We observe. We think differently. Strength is not everything." Lyra did not respond immediately. She hovered, silent, absorbing his words. Finally, she gave a faint nod. "Perhaps humans are more capable than I believed." Ethan allowed himself a small smile. It was not about winning a contest. It was about showing that humans had a unique advantage: creativity, adaptability, and courage. The return journey was quieter. The cadets moved in harmony, following Ethan's lead. The artifact pulsed softly in the containment field, a reminder that the universe had many mysteries, and humans were capable of facing them in ways aliens could not always anticipate. When they landed back at the academy, the instructors gathered around. "Excellent work," one said. "Your teamwork and problem-solving were impressive. Humans may be underestimated, but today you have proven your value." The cadets looked at Ethan differently now. Murmurs of respect replaced whispers of doubt. Lyra approached him, her usual confidence tempered by a hint of humility. "You may have survived this mission," she said, "but the galaxy will test you further. Can your human skills hold up in challenges beyond this academy?" Ethan met her gaze steadily. "They always have," he said, "and they will continue to do so." As the sun set over the academy, casting long shadows across the gleaming towers, Ethan realized something important. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers. Aliens were strong, advanced, and unpredictable. But humans had a gift the galaxy often overlooked: ingenuity. And ingenuity, he knew, could change everything. For the first time, Lyra looked at him not as a simple human to mock, but as a cadet worthy of attention and perhaps admiration. The next challenge, Ethan knew, would come soon. But he was ready. Humans had faced impossible odds before, and they always found a way to survive and thrive. And now, the galaxy was about to discover exactly what that meant. The starcraft glided silently through a field of swirling cosmic dust, each particle glimmering like distant stars. Ethan sat at the navigation console, watching the shifting colors outside. His team was quiet, each member absorbed in their own thoughts. The earlier challenges had shown the aliens that humans could be more than underestimated. They could lead in unexpected ways. Yet Ethan knew the mission ahead would be far more dangerous. The energy readings from the distant sector suggested that the ancient structure they were heading toward was unstable. Rumors among cadets whispered of traps that could crush entire teams and artifacts that had destroyed entire fleets centuries ago. "Are you sure about this route?" Croven asked, his forearms busy adjusting the starcraft's energy shields. "We could take a safer path. Why risk so much?" Ethan studied the holographic map. "This route minimizes exposure to the unstable energy fields. We must move carefully but decisively. Any delay could trigger a chain reaction." Talia flapped her wings impatiently. "Ethan, I hope your human instincts are correct. One wrong move." "I'll take responsibility," Ethan said calmly. "We succeed if we work together and follow the plan." Lyra hovered nearby, her wings twitching. She had long since stopped laughing at Ethan. Instead, she watched him, studying how he thought, how he assessed risks and calculated solutions. She still doubted some of his methods, but there was no denying that his judgment had already saved them more than once. The starcraft entered the sector. Outside, the structure floated like a jagged fortress. Its walls were carved with alien symbols pulsating with faint energy. Some parts shimmered, as though invisible currents of power moved just beneath the surface. Miri shivered, her small body floating closer to Ethan. "I sense the traps are more advanced than we imagined. This is beyond any simulation." Ethan nodded. "Then we must rely on observation and timing, not just strength or skill." The ship docked carefully with a section of the structure that seemed intact. A sliding hatch opened, revealing a long corridor filled with floating platforms and energy pulses. The team floated forward, stepping cautiously. Immediately, the challenges began. Some platforms shifted suddenly, forcing cadets to adjust quickly. Energy pulses moved in unpredictable patterns. Lyra's wings were almost useless in the tight space. Croven's strength could not counter the shifting paths. Only Ethan's careful calculations kept the team safe. "Move left," Ethan called. "Now!" The team reacted in unison, following his lead. One wrong step, and the energy pulse would have thrown them into the surrounding void. For the first time, Lyra hesitated, realizing she could not rely solely on her alien abilities. She had to trust a human to guide them. Hours passed as they navigated the structure, each corridor presenting new dangers. Ethan's mind worked constantly, analyzing patterns, predicting movements, and coordinating the team's actions. The alien cadets, despite their abilities, followed his lead, impressed despite themselves. Finally, they entered a massive chamber. The ceiling was impossibly high, and the floor was a lattice of glowing energy channels. Floating above the floor were several artifacts, hovering and pulsing with light. Their shapes were unfamiliar, each one intricate and alien, yet somehow familiar. Miri's voice was barely a whisper. "These artifacts, they are extremely dangerous. Any wrong touch could trigger a surge that destroys everything." Ethan studied the artifacts. He noticed subtle vibrations, tiny movements that suggested a hidden pattern. "Each artifact is connected to the energy flow beneath it," he said. "We must extract one carefully, in sync with the pulses. Timing is everything." Lyra floated close, watching him work. "And you think you can do it?" she asked, skepticism still in her voice, though weaker than before. Ethan did not answer with words. He extended a small device he had prepared, using his human ingenuity to create a tool that could manipulate the energy flow without touching the artifacts directly. Step by step, he guided the team. Krovan pushed lightly where strength was needed. Talia stabilized the delicate platforms, and Miri monitored the energy channels with her telepathy. The first artifact lifted smoothly into containment. A collective sigh of relief passed through the team. Ethan's calm confidence had carried them through yet another deadly challenge, but the chamber had more surprises. A sudden tremor shook the structure, energy pulses increased, and new obstacles emerged. Platforms shifted violently, walls contracted, and the ceiling lowered. The team had only seconds to react. Ethan calculated quickly. "Move in pairs. Follow my timing. We can cross together. Trust me." For a tense moment, the team floated through the chaos, synchronized perfectly with Ethan's instructions. Lyra, who had relied on speed and power before, now relied entirely on his guidance. Every step she took was a step she had never imagined taking, from doubting a human to following one into danger. Finally, they reached a central chamber. Here, the largest artifact hovered, encased in a lattice of pure energy. The inscriptions on the walls glowed brighter than ever. Ethan studied them, noticing shapes and sequences that hinted at control mechanisms. "This one is different," Miri said nervously. "It reacts to thought patterns, but only if approached correctly." Ethan examined the artifact, his mind racing. "It is like a puzzle," he said. "Not strength, not speed, but understanding and creativity. Watch me carefully." Using a combination of small tools, careful timing, and observation, Ethan approached the artifact. The energy pulses shifted in response to his movements. Slowly, he guided it into containment without triggering any defensive mechanisms. The chamber was silent except for the soft hum of energy. Even Lyra, who had faced countless alien challenges, stared at him in awe. You did it," she said quietly. "I didn't think a human could." Ethan gave a small smile. "It is not about being human or alien. It is about thinking, observing, and adapting. That is how we survive." As they prepared to leave the structure, the walls began to shimmer, revealing a hidden chamber. Ethan noticed inscriptions that mentioned Earth, his birthplace. Miri floated closer, her eyes wide. This mentions a planet called Earth. I've never seen it before in any record. Could it be?" Ethan's heart skipped a beat. "Earth is my home," he said softly. "It is a human world, small but remarkable. Humans are underestimated, but we have survived impossible odds for centuries." Lyra's eyes widened. She stared at him in disbelief. The galaxy had considered Earth primitive, insignificant, and yet the artifacts themselves recognized its influence. The chamber began to collapse, triggered by the energy fluctuations. Ethan acted quickly. "Follow me. Step carefully and watch the pulses." Using his knowledge of human problem-solving and teamwork, Ethan led the team out of the chamber, maneuvering past collapsing platforms and energy bursts. Every move required precision and courage. At the exit, Lyra caught up to him, her wings trembling slightly. I underestimated you," she admitted. "Humans are extraordinary." Ethan smiled faintly. "It's not about being extraordinary. It's about surviving, thinking, and never giving up. Humans have always done that." As they returned to the starcraft, the artifacts secured and the team intact, Ethan realized something important. The galaxy underestimated humans, but that underestimation was their greatest advantage. While others relied on predictable strengths, humans relied on adaptability, creativity, and courage. And now, even Lyra could see it. The journey back to the academy was quiet, filled with a new sense of respect. Lyra stayed close to Ethan, observing him not as a weak human, but as a leader and problem solver. The other cadets murmured among themselves, clearly impressed by the human who had navigated the deadliest chambers of the alien structure. When they landed, the instructors met them with a mixture of surprise and admiration. "Exceptional work," the chief instructor said. "You have demonstrated that the galaxy often underestimates humans. Adaptability and ingenuity are as important as power. This mission is a testament to your skills, Ethan." Ethan nodded. He knew the mission had changed something, not just for him, but for the perception of humans across the academy. Lyra approached him one last time before the team dispersed. "I laughed at you when we first met," she said softly. "But I see now. Humans are not to be underestimated. Teach me your ways sometime." Ethan's eyes met hers. "I'll teach you," he said. "But remember, humans survive because we think differently. Never assume anything is impossible." That night, Ethan gazed out of the Starcraft's observation deck, the stars stretching endlessly before him. Earth seemed distant, almost like a memory, but its lessons were alive in him. Creativity, courage, adaptability. They were human traits that could shine anywhere in the galaxy. The galaxy would face challenges far beyond anything he had encountered so far. But Ethan felt ready. Humans had survived deserts, storms, and predators for millennia. Now, even in the alien expanses of space, they could thrive. And soon, the rest of the galaxy would realize that a human's greatest weapon was not strength or speed, it was the power of the mind. The team returned to the academy with the artifacts secured, yet Ethan could not shake the feeling that something larger was at play. The structure they had explored was ancient, built long before the galaxy's current civilizations had risen. The inscriptions hinted at a force that humans, of all species, had uniquely influenced. And now it was clear that his home planet, Earth, was at the center of this revelation. In the debriefing hall, cadets and instructors gathered around the large holographic display. Symbols from the artifacts floated in midair, glowing with pulsating energy. Ethan stood beside Lyra, Krovan, Talia, and Miri, the weight of responsibility pressing on him. The chief instructor stepped forward, his silver skin shimmering in the light. "These artifacts are part of a network of ancient devices scattered across the galaxy," he explained. "They are tied to civilizations long thought lost, but this," he gestured to the central symbol, "this mentions a planet called Earth." A ripple of murmurs spread through the hall. Cadets whispered, exchanging confused glances. Earth, a planet considered primitive, insignificant. And yet, the artifacts recognized it. Lyra's eyes widened. She floated closer to Ethan, her wings twitching. You're from this planet?" she asked softly. Ethan nodded. "Yes. Earth is my home. A small planet, but humans have survived countless dangers for centuries. We may seem ordinary, but we are adaptable, resilient, and clever." The murmurs grew louder as instructors and cadets processed this information. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy. Aliens often dismissed them as weak, simple, and unsophisticated. Yet the evidence before them suggested otherwise. One of the senior instructors, a towering being with 3 eyes and 4 arms, spoke. "It appears that humans possess qualities uniquely suited to challenges these artifacts present. Creativity, adaptability, and courage are traits that our species cannot replicate. A human mind could navigate dangers these devices pose more effectively than any alien intelligence." The room went silent. All eyes turned to Ethan. He felt a mixture of pride and pressure. This was bigger than a single mission. This was recognition of his species, something no human had achieved before in the galactic community. Lyra hovered closer. "I laughed at you before," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought you were weak, incapable. But I see now. Humans are extraordinary in ways I cannot fully understand yet. Ethan gave her a small smile. It is not about being extraordinary, he said. It is about survival, observation, and adaptability. Humans have survived on Earth for millennia because we think differently, find solutions where others see none, and never give up. Crovan, usually blunt and skeptical, stepped forward. I'll admit it. I underestimated you. You guided us through hazards that even I struggled with. That is impressive, truly impressive. Talia, who had always relied on speed and instinct, nodded. Your approach. It is unlike anything I have seen. Calculated, careful, and precise. Humans may be underestimated, but you have proven that they can excel in situations where raw power fails. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. Respect was growing, not just from Lyra, but from the entire team. Yet he knew this recognition came with responsibility. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers humans had never faced before, and now the ancient artifacts hinted that humans would play a critical role in these challenges. The chief instructor continued. We will need humans to take the lead in understanding and navigating these devices. Your creativity and problem-solving are essential. It appears that Earth's influence on the galaxy is far greater than we imagined. And now, one of your own is here to demonstrate that truth. Ethan's mind raced. The artifacts were not just remnants of an ancient civilization. They were a test to see which species could survive, adapt, and thrive. Humans had passed that test today, and now the galaxy had begun to notice. Lyra floated silently beside him. Teach me, she said suddenly. Teach me your ways. Show me how humans think, how you approach problems, and how you survive where others fail. Ethan looked at her thoughtfully. It is not about teaching a single method. Humans survive because we adapt to the situation. We observe, we experiment, and we never assume failure. If you learn that, you will understand more than any lesson I can give. Miri floated closer, her small eyes glowing. We saw it today. Your calmness, your observation, your timing, it saved us. Humans may be underestimated, but you have a unique advantage over all of us. Even Crovan, with his blunt demeanor, seemed thoughtful. It is strange. A species we considered weak may hold the key to survival against unknown dangers. The realization spread across the hall like wildfire. The galaxy had long dismissed humans, yet here was proof that they were exceptional, not because of strength or psychic power or flight, but because of ingenuity, creativity, and the ability to adapt under pressure. The chief instructor addressed the cadets once more. Ethan has shown us that humans are capable of solving problems no alien mind could predict. This is only the beginning. Future missions will rely on humans not as assistants, but as leaders. The galaxy has much to learn from them. A hum of excitement and tension filled the room. Cadets who had doubted humans before now looked at Ethan with new eyes. Even those who had once mocked him could not deny his accomplishments. Lyra's wings fluttered nervously. I thought humans were ordinary. But now I see. Earth has produced minds capable of guiding entire missions. I underestimated you, Ethan. I underestimated your world. Ethan smiled faintly. It is not about underestimation. It is about learning, observing, and respecting abilities you do not yet understand. Humans may seem ordinary, but we thrive because we never stop trying, never stop learning. Crovan scratched his head. I never thought I'd say this, but I want to learn human problem-solving techniques. They might save lives in the future. Talia nodded in agreement. And so do I. Observing patterns, adapting, improvising, these are skills we can all use. Even Miri, usually quiet and cautious, floated closer to Ethan. Humans have a spark, she said softly. a spark that cannot be copied or predicted. That spark saved us today. The debriefing ended, but the recognition lingered. The artifacts were secured, the mission a success, and the truth about Earth and humans was revealed. Ethan realized that the galaxy's perception of his species had shifted forever. Later, in the Academy's observation deck, Ethan and Lyra watched the stars stretch endlessly. The artifacts had revealed more than just dangers. They hinted at a greater challenge. Somewhere in the galaxy, forces waited that could test even humans. But for the first time, Lyra looked at Ethan not with doubt, but with admiration. "You know," she said quietly, "I laughed at you before. I thought humans were weak, incapable. But I see now, humans are remarkable." Ethan glanced at her, a small smile on his face. "It is not about being remarkable. It is about surviving, adapting, and thinking differently. Humans have done it on Earth for millennia, and now, perhaps we will do it here too." The stars outside the observation deck seemed to stretch farther than ever. Ethan understood that the galaxy was larger, stranger, and more dangerous than anything humans had faced. Yet he felt ready. Earth had prepared humans for survival against impossible odds. And now, the universe was about to see what humans were truly capable of. Lyra floated closer, her voice soft. "Teach me your ways, Ethan. Show me how humans think, how they survive." Ethan looked at her, then at the vast galaxy beyond. "I will," he said. "But remember, humans thrive because we adapt, not because we follow rules. You must observe, think, and never assume failure. That is the essence of survival." The stars outside glimmered like distant promises. Ethan knew that challenges would come, traps, dangers, and forces far beyond the Academy. Yet he also knew something important. Humans had a unique advantage, one the galaxy had long ignored. Creativity, courage, and adaptability, traits that could change the course of events, save lives, and even reshape the future. And now, the galaxy had begun to notice. The Academy had never felt more alive. News of Ethan's success with the artifacts and his human ingenuity had spread quickly. Cadets whispered in awe, instructors nodded with respect, and even the usually skeptical administrators took notice. Humans, once considered insignificant, were now recognized for qualities that no alien species could easily replicate. Ethan moved through the corridors with his team. Lyra floated beside him, her wings flickering with quiet energy. She no longer laughed at him. She watched him closely, absorbing every detail of his movements, his decisions, and his calm confidence. The dynamic between them had shifted. She had once doubted humans entirely. Now she admired their resilience. "Do you think they'll ever stop underestimating humans?" Lyra asked quietly, not as a challenge, but with curiosity. Ethan smiled faintly. "They may always underestimate us. It is part of what makes humans unpredictable. But when we act, when we think, and when we adapt, we prove that we can achieve the impossible." Their team gathered in the central training hall. A new mission awaited, but this one was different. The artifacts had revealed the presence of another structure in a distant sector, larger, older, and even more unstable. The Academy administrators had chosen Ethan's team to lead the exploration. Humans would no longer follow, they would guide. Krovan cracked his claws in anticipation. "Finally, a mission worthy of your thinking, human. Let's see how far it takes us." Talia adjusted her wings. "I am ready to follow your lead, Ethan. We will move carefully, but decisively." Miri floated closer, her tiny form glowing with excitement. "Your skills are essential. We trust your guidance completely." Even Lyra gave a small nod. "I will observe and learn, but this time we succeed because of humans, and not in spite of them." The starcraft launched into space, leaving the Academy behind. Stars streaked past as the ship accelerated, heading toward the distant sector where the new structure waited. Ethan studied the navigation console, anticipating every obstacle, every hazard, every possible trap. The team watched him with quiet admiration. When they arrived, the structure rose like a mountain in the void. Its walls were jagged, covered in glowing symbols and swirling energy fields. The sheer scale of it made even alien cadets pause. Ethan felt a familiar thrill. Danger, unpredictability, and complexity. This was where humans shined. The team docked and entered the structure. Instantly, the environment tested them. Gravity shifted unexpectedly, corridors narrowed, and energy pulses moved in chaotic patterns. Lyra flapped her wings furiously, trying to navigate, but she struggled. Crovan's strength was useful only in some areas, and Miri's telepathy could not predict every hazard. Ethan, however, moved calmly. He studied the surroundings, analyzed patterns, and guided the team step by step. His mind worked like a precise machine, combining observation, logic, and intuition. Every movement, every decision was deliberate. "Left," Ethan called. "Now!" The team followed perfectly. Even Lyra, whose confidence had always been tied to her alien abilities, found herself relying entirely on his guidance. She realized something profound. Humans were not predictable. They could see patterns others could not, adapt to chaos, and find solutions when all seemed lost. Hours passed as they moved deeper into the structure. The challenges increased. Energy spikes, shifting platforms, and sudden collapses. At one point, a massive energy beam shot across the corridor, threatening to crush them. Lyra froze. "Step back!" Ethan shouted. Using quick calculations and human ingenuity, he guided the team through a narrow gap between the beams. Crovan's arms stabilized the ship, Talia held the platform steady, and Miri monitored the energy fluctuations. Together, under Ethan's leadership, they avoided disaster. They reached the central chamber, the largest artifact chamber yet. Dozens of artifacts floated in intricate patterns, their energy pulses intertwining. Some objects shimmered with blue light, others glowed gold. Ethan studied them carefully, noticing the subtle interactions between the energies. "This is unlike anything we've seen," Miri whispered. "One wrong move could destabilize everything." Ethan nodded. "We proceed carefully, with observation and precision. Humans have survived because we adapt and find solutions where others cannot. That is what will guide us now." Step by step, he led the team. Each artifact required timing, insight, and coordination. Ethan used tools he had crafted, his knowledge of energy flows, and his keen observation of alien technology to manipulate the artifacts safely. The team followed his lead perfectly. Lyra watched in awe. "I never imagined a human mind could accomplish this," she said softly. "You see things differently. You adapt where others fail. You lead." Ethan glanced at her, offering a small, calm smile. "Humans survive by thinking differently. That is what we bring to the galaxy." The final challenge approached. One massive artifact hovered in the center, radiating intense energy. The inscriptions hinted at a connection to Earth, the very planet Ethan came from. Somehow, this artifact recognized human influence. "This is Earth?" Miri whispered, almost in disbelief. Ethan stepped forward. "Yes, Earth may seem small and insignificant to the galaxy, but humans have endured for millennia. We are adaptable, courageous, and creative. That is what these artifacts recognize." With careful precision, Ethan guided the team to manipulate the final artifact. Energy surged around them, but his calculations were perfect. Step by step, the artifact settled into containment, stable and harmless. The chamber was silent except for the hum of energy. Lyra floated close, wings trembling slightly. I underestimated humans," she admitted. "Not just you, Ethan, your world, Earth." Ethan looked at her. It is not underestimation that matters. It is understanding. Humans survive because we observe, adapt, and act. That is our strength. Krovan grinned. I never thought I'd say this, but humans might just be the key to surviving these challenges. Talia nodded. Observation, adaptability, ingenuity. Humans have something none of us can replicate. Even Miri's small eyes glowed. The spark humans have, it saved us. It always will. As they exited the structure and returned to the starcraft, the team felt a shared sense of accomplishment. Humans had not only survived, they had led, inspired, and demonstrated their value in ways the galaxy had long ignored. When they landed back at the academy, the cadets and instructors gathered to honor them. The chief instructor spoke, his voice full of admiration. Today, we have witnessed the extraordinary capabilities of a human mind. Adaptability, creativity, courage. These traits are unmatched. Humans may be underestimated, but they are essential to the galaxy's survival and future. Cadets whispered among themselves. Even those who had mocked humans before now looked at Ethan with respect, curiosity, and perhaps a hint of envy. Lyra approached Ethan, wings folded respectfully. "You've shown the galaxy what humans can do," she said softly. "I will never laugh at you, or your people, again." Ethan smiled. "It is not about proving superiority. It is about showing what humans are capable of when we adapt, observe, and persevere." The stars stretched endlessly beyond the academy windows. Ethan felt the weight of responsibility, but also excitement. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, dangers, and opportunities. Humans were now recognized for their unique abilities, and the challenges ahead would require everything they had. Yet Ethan knew something important. Humans had survived countless threats on Earth. They had adapted, innovated, and endured, and now, even among the stars, those traits would guide them through the unknown. Lyra hovered beside him. "Teach me," she said quietly. "Show me how humans think, how they survive." Ethan looked at her, then at the infinite galaxy beyond. "I will," he said, "but remember, humans thrive because we think differently, adapt constantly, and never give up. That is the essence of survival." The galaxy awaited, filled with wonders and dangers. Ethan felt ready. Humans had begun to earn the respect they deserved, and with each mission, each challenge, they would show the universe that ordinary-looking beings from a small planet could achieve the extraordinary. The stars shimmered like distant promises. Ethan's mind raced with possibilities, plans, and solutions. The universe was vast, but humans had survived far greater odds. Creativity, courage, and adaptability, the human spark, would shine brightly, guiding not only himself, but the galaxy toward a future filled with hope and achievement. And for the first time, Lyra understood completely. Humans were not just survivors. They were extraordinary. Together they looked out into the endless stars, ready to face the next adventure, confident that humans would always find a way. The galaxy had taken notice. Humans had arrived,